ongoing discussion of Bhakti Shastri. So I'll start with the Mangalachar. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vacharam pangam langyati girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurudinataranam Paramanandam Madhavam. Hare Krishna. So today we will start with the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most exciting chapters because it speaks about karma. And karma is something that we are all very intimately familiar with. And at the same time, it's a mystery, which is what adds to the intrigue. I think there is someone whose mic is not muted, so devotees can mute the mic unless they're asking questions. That would help. Thank you. Okay, so last week we finished the second chapter. We'll do a quick recap. That the first chapter is essentially setting up the scene for the Bhagavad Gita to be spoken. So the main flow in the chapter is the doubts of Arjuna. That he starts off showing resolve to fight, but then he goes through his introspection, triggered by viewing those who had come to fight, which included personalities like Bhishma and Drona. And in the beginning of the second chapter, he basically says that, Govinda, I shall not fight. But he also surrenders to Krishna. And he says that, I am now confused about my duty. So please tell me what needs to be done. The second chapter is the summary of the Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna first talks about the real identity of the Jiva. So this is the Sankhya section, where he speaks about the nature of the soul. That how the soul is eternal, never born, never killed, never destroyed. What is the relationship between the soul and the body? Vasamsi jirnani yathavihaya navani granati navuparani. That just like one takes clothes and changes clothes, the soul changes bodies, process of reincarnation. Now, having established the basis of spirituality, so to speak, that unless one subscribes to the notion of an existence beyond the material platform, then the person is not going to be able to imbibe any philosophical knowledge. Because if one is vested in the material platform, then everything needs to be empirical. Show me this, prove to me this. Whereas spiritual knowledge is mostly descending, coming from the authority. So that's why Krishna first of all speaks about the soul. Then he speaks about karma kand, that why it is Arjun's duty to be standing there and fighting in the battlefield, and how karma kand actually results in real material enjoyment. He then combines these two notions, the notion of that you're not the body but the soul, and karma is your duty. He combines it to introduce Arjun to Buddhi Yoga, which is another word for Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is another word, Srila Prabhupada equates it also to Bhakti Yoga, which is essentially acting on the platform of the soul, performing your prescribed duties, but on the platform of the soul. So what does that mean? It means that one has no material attachment either for the execution or for the enjoyment of the fruits of the activity. Because if you do not consider yourself to be the body, you're not the senses, you're not invested in the pleasure of the senses, you're not the ego, you don't care about honor and dishonor. So you're doing activities just because they're prescribed to you. So this is Krishna's first introduction to Nishkam Karma Yoga. And this is a thread that Krishna will very tenaciously adhere to through all the 18 chapters. Whether it's a chapter on bhakti or gyan or karma, he will again and again bring Arjun's attention back to Nishkam Karma. And we'll see that how he affectionately speaks about a person who is practicing Nishkam Karma. So he introduces this notion right up front, and he will develop and cultivate it throughout the narration. And the chapter ended with Arjun asking Krishna about one who is qualified to perform Nishkam Karma. And Krishna then speaks about the internal and the external mode of detachment of such a person. And the second chapter ends when Krishna is saying that if a person is situated in this conception, even at the time of death, he will attain perfection. So the point he's making is that this is so powerful that even if the person at the moment of death, which means that the person has only one moment, but if he's able to situate himself in this consciousness, that person will be liberated. How much more for a person who practices this throughout his life? So that is the end of the second chapter. So I'm going to put forth to you some questions. These are part of the questions that are there in the prep. And if you can raise your hands to answer. So Krishna lists the 8 stages of fall down. And if you can, you don't have to give me all 8. Best would be if you can give me from 1 through 8. One person can give me the first, and because Krishna presents it as a chain of evils. This and then this stage 2, all the way to stage 8. Best is if you can give me 1 through 8. So who can give me the very first stage of fall down? Okay, so I see, so I'm asking devotees who haven't contributed in the past. Sai Prabhu.
Yeah, the first one, contemplating the objects of senses.
Yes, thank you. So you can lower your hand. Second stage. I have Bhagavati Prabhu. If you can give the second stage.
So then after that, person developing attachment.
Develops attachment. Good. So contemplating the object of the senses, the person develops the attachment. Third stage. We have Anantacharya Prabhu.
So, Prabhu, from attachment comes lust.
Attachment comes lust. And pay attention to this stage, because Krishna will again speak about lust in the third chapter. So what comes from lust? Rajiv Sham Prabhu.
If we don't get what we want from lust, anger develops.
Anger develops. Okay, so from lust, anger develops. Very good. Next stage. What comes from anger? Neha Mataji?
Hare Krishna. From anger, the complete delusion comes.
From anger, delusion comes. And so this is the fifth stage. What is the sixth stage? What comes from delusionment? We have Sri Padma. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, developing bewilderment of memory.
Bewilderment of memory. Very good. From delusion comes bewilderment of memory. And when bewilderment happens, what is the next stage? We have Vanita Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, from bewilderment, we lose intelligence. So,
Yes, thank you. From bewilderment, we lose our intelligence. And the final stage, what happens when intelligence is lost? So we have, so Ram Tulsi Mataji.
Yeah, then the fall down again into the material world.
Correct. Thank you. So this is the spiraling down, and it's not, even though it's presented as a stage, but it is a spiral that feeds on itself. So it's not that one at one point is not objecting the contemplating the sensual object, and then they start contemplating, but gradually as the senses began to engage with the object, attachment develops. From attachment, lust comes. Why does anger come from lust? Because the result of lust is one of two things. Either you get what you want or you don't get what you want. When you don't get what you want, then there is frustration. When you get what you want, there is disappointment. Right? We have all had this experience. There's something that we want so badly, and then when we get it, we say, oh, was this really worth it? This is not all that it is cut out to be, right? So either cases, lust fulfilled or unfulfilled, anger comes. And anger is mode of ignorance. Then delusion, bewilderment of memory. And Prabhupada says that the loss of intelligence means that the ability to speculate, to grasp spiritual topics is lost. The finer tissues of the brain that are used in grasping spiritual concepts, that gets mitigated. And that's why one again falls into the material pool. Very good. Okay, so second question, that Krishna gives the example of a mat paraha. Can somebody tell me, two-part question. The first is, what does mat paraha mean? So I see Vanita and Ram Tulsi Mataji. I'm not sure if you forgot to lower your hand or, okay. Please go ahead, Ram Tulsi Mataji. What does mat paraha mean?
It means one who restrains his senses, he keeps them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon the Supreme Lord Krishna.
Very good, very good. Mat paraha. So mat is over there. So Krishna is saying that one who fixes his consciousness upon me. Srila Prabhupada gives an example of one who is a Matpara. Does anybody remember? Okay, so I'm going to call out on people because I don't want the same people to be
Ambarish.
Ambarish, yeah. So Vamsi Gopal Prabhu, please wait to be called out before you answer. So yes, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Ambarish Maharaj. Last question, that Krishna, in the very last verse of the second chapter, he speaks about Brahma Nirvana Rachati. What does Brahma Nirvana Rachati means? Okay, so let me call on Kokila Mataji. Would you like to answer?
Prabhu, what I remember is his qualities of being Brahma Nirvana, Prabhu.
Okay, close, but not quite there. Let's see if Ramachandra Priya Prabhu.
Prabhu, attaining the spiritual kingdom.
Very good, thank you. So Brahma Nirvanam Rachati means attaining the spiritual kingdom. And then Srila Prabhupada makes this point that Bhakti is the same as Brahma Nirvanam Rachati. That one should not think that going back to Godhead means that there is a flash of light and you're suddenly now in the gardens of Vrindavan. May happen, may not happen. But he says anywhere and everywhere where you're executing devotional service, that is Brahma Nirvana Rachati. So the point is making in the very place that you are in the situation that you are in, you can attain the kingdom of God simply by performing devotional service. Okay, very good. Thank you. And let me now share. So we'll start with the third chapter. So how do I share screen?
Prabhuji, can I ask a question about this Brahma Nirvana?
Sure, Mataji, please go ahead.
So we translate that, Brahma Nirvana as spiritual kingdom. Brahma, as far as I understand, is spiritual, but Nirvana doesn't mean kingdom, right? Like I found here, Nirvana can be liberation and supreme, extinction, cessation, spiritual bliss, purification from all material contamination. I mean, Nirvana is not kingdom. It doesn't translate as kingdom. What exactly is Brahma Nirvana? Like, what does the term Nirvana mean? And my next question, if Krishna speaks so much about Nirvana, like for example, here in chapter number 2, also he uses the word Nirvana in chapter number 5 and chapter number 6. Why, if Krishna uses this word so much, why we in ISKCON, this word is almost forbidden to us?
Mataji, it's a good question, and it brings forth an important concept to understand when we are reading Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, is that Sanskrit words have several meanings, and the relevant meaning is derived contextually. The context is revealed that's why we give so much of importance to being connected to a parampara. The context is revealed by the acharya. So I'll give you another word which has so many meanings to it. Atma. Right? So what does Atma mean to you?
Is this a question?
Yes. So if somebody were to ask you that you are giving a class in the temple and somebody raises the hand and says, what does Atma mean to you? What would you say?
Well, what you answered me in the chat, that Atma can be referred to individual Atma, but it also can mean as a Paramatma, as the Lord who
Right.
is present in each living being.
Very good. So Atma can refer to, so Atma literally means self. Atma can refer to the physical body, the gross body. It can refer to the subtle body. It can refer to the soul. It can refer to Paramatma, super soul. It can refer to Brahman, and it can refer to Krishna. So all these are valid meanings of Atma. How it is being used is derived from the context. So when we are saying Brahma Nirvana Rachati, literally Brahma could be Lord Brahma, it could be Brahman. Nirvana could be liberation. And again, liberation is a word that is very contextual. You could be liberated from your sins and stay in your material body. You could be liberated from the earthly planet and go to the heavenly planets. That is the more accepted understanding of moksha, that you go to the heavenly planets. You could be liberated into the Brahman, or you could be liberated into your eternal position as the servant of Krishna. All are nirvana. So here there are two words that have several meanings. So what is the meaning that we take? The meaning that Srila Prabhupada gives us, which is Brahma Nirvanam Rachati is attaining our eternal service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. That's the meaning that we take. And Srila Prabhupada is not giving it whimsically. He's following the predecessor acharyas. So if you look at the commentary given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baldev Vidyabhushan, they're all consistent in how they are explaining this word to us. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. So we'll take one question from Anita Mataji and then we'll move on. You have a question?
No, Prabhuji, I was trying to answer her question.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So when Krishna is ending the second chapter, then when he starts speaking about Nishkam Karma, Buddhi Yoga, he says, Durina Hayavaram, that keep all these abominable activities distant by Buddhi Yoga. Now, Arjun, in his mind, thinks that this is what I have been saying all along, that fighting in this battle is abominable, because in this I will be killing for all the reasons. I'll be killing my relatives, my guru, they will be Varnasrama, so it's abominable. And I am being intelligent in the sense that I'm not just jumping into the battle just for the sake of material gains. I'm using my buddhi. So Arjun interprets buddhi as intelligence, that I'm using my buddhi so as to keep this abominable activity away. But then still he sees that Krishna is urging him to fight. 4 times in the second chapter, Krishna asks Arjun to fight. The most time in any chapter, he asks Arjun to fight. So Arjun is confused. And he begins the third chapter with a question for Krishna to clarify his apparently contradictory instruction. That do you want me to renounce or work? Now, how does renunciation equal to buddhi? Because Gyan is the stage of no working. When you're at the stage of Gyan, Arjuna thinks that you don't have to work, you're renounced. So renounce means no work. And then there is work, there is karma. So the third chapter begins with a direct question from Arjuna. Now, this is an important question that is asked by Arjuna 3 times in the Bhagavad Gita. He will ask it at the beginning of the 3rd chapter. He will again ask it at the beginning of the 5th chapter. And then he will again ask it at the beginning of the 18th chapter. Such an important question. But we will see that the mood with which he asks the question changes. Right now, he's asking in an almost angry mood. That he says, I'm bewildered by your equivocal instructions. So he's putting the blame on Krishna. So equivocal means that a person says that it is good to get up in the morning. It is also good to sleep late. So these are equivocal instructions. So from Arjuna's perspective, Krishna is saying, it is good to work. It is also good not to work. So he says, now please clarify to me. So the chapter is essentially a discourse on karma. And the way we'll approach it is that before we go into the chapter, we will take a high level view of karma. Karma is complicated. It is simple and complicated at the same time. And karma unfolds over the 3rd, 4th, and 5th chapter. So we will kind of take a synopsis of these, of whatever is being taught in these 3 chapters. And I'm going to pose it as a series of discussion points. So let's start. And again, if you can limit your answers to under 60 seconds and only answer by raising your hands. Can somebody tell me what is karma? Give me a specific definition of karma. So just to prelude answers that are generally that karma is activities that you perform, or karma is what you do. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for a more specific understanding of definition of karma. Okay, so I see only one hand. Kokila Mataji, please go ahead.
Karma is basically our actions, our thoughts that comes into actions, Prabhu. And also we do aspire things and we perform for predicted results.
Okay, very good and very close, but not quite there. Thomas Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. The law of action and reaction.
That is the law of karma. So you're one step ahead of me. Okay. I'm asking what is karma? Rajiv Shyam.
Doing your job according to your situations or according to your prescribed duties.
That is a particular kind of karma. It's again, you're a step ahead of me. It's a specific subsection of karma. Okay, so I think in the interest of time, Bhurijan Prabhu explains karma based on the scriptural authority, those activities that lead to the creation of a material body. So any activity. So Rajiv Sham Prabhu, you were talking about good activities, but there are bad activities also. They're sinful. They're also called karma, right? And Kokila Mataji, she was talking about the birth of karma. Why does karma come into being? All these points will be explained. But specifically, karma is activities that lead to the creation of a material body. And we'll see why this definition is so comprehensive, because it includes in it understanding of so many other concepts. Can somebody explain to me can somebody explain to me what is the law of karma? Okay, Ranga Mataji, please go ahead. Yes, Ranga Mataji, you raised your hand.
Yes, Prabhuji, sorry, I was talking on mute. So basically, when we do good karma, we get good credits. When we do bad karma, bad credits, but they don't neutralize, like, +1 - 1 is not 0, right? So we have to experience both good karma, whether good karma or bad karma. There is no escape. Unless we finish it, we cannot move forward to the spiritual world.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So that is the law of karma. And that is probably one of the simplest things to understand. Good activities result in good reactions. Bad activities result in bad reactions. Right? That is the law of karma. Follow-up question. How are good and bad activities determined? So we are anchoring the law of karma on good and bad activities. And once I get the answer for that, I'll also tell you a short story, a real story. But can somebody help me understand that what distinguishes good karma from bad karma? Let me call on Advaita Hari Prabhu.
Okay, so I did not raise my hand, but I still, yes, Prabhu, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. In general, I must say to give a high level answer, basically, whatever karma is according to the Shastric injunctions, we should consider them as good karma, and whichever is not in conjunction with the not in sync with the Shastric conjunctions are going to be considered bad karma.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. So let me call on Ayati Prabhu. So Advaitari rightly said that activities as per the Vedic injunction are good karma, and activities against them are bad. The follow-up question is, how do we know what is good and bad for us? The Vedas have so many instructions. How do we know what is good and what is bad? Chaitanya Das Prabhu.
By guidance from the spiritual master.
Okay. Okay, that's part of the answer. Very good. What else?
The scriptures.
That's been already said. The scriptures. Looking for something else. That's okay. Let's give somebody else a chance. Let's see. Vamsi Prabhu.
it's something to do with whether we are doing for our own senses versus Krishna.
True.
Or self-centered, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're speaking more from the platform of Bhakti. The answer is true, but not what I'm looking for right now. Let's see. I'll give one more chance, and then if not, then I'll try and answer it myself. Let's see who has not. Sir, next, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, everybody. I'm not sure how to explain it, but I would say your dharma, following what's right to you in the best way possible.
Okay, that's very close. Thank you. So Varnasrama dharma, right? So Varnasrama dharma is what tells you what are the specific activities that are relevant to you. So think of Varnashram as a 4x4 matrix. There are 4 Varnas, there are 4 ashrams. And what the scriptures do is, what does a brahmachari who is a Brahman supposed to do? What does a grasta who is a Vaishya supposed to do? A grasta who is a Brahman has different duties compared to a grasta who is a Vaishya. That is the whole purpose of Varnashram, that we are able to peg ourselves in a Varna and an ashram. Based on that, we can go and refer to the relevant part of the scriptures and say, for me, this is the prescribed duty, right? So that's how the notion of Varnashram also comes. Now, even with that, understanding the intricacies of karma is next to impossible. What is good karma, what is bad karma, it is almost next to impossible because there are so many connotations. There's now he's famous. There's a Jewish priest, they call rabbis, called Harold Kushner, and his son died at a very young age. He was only 14 years, and he died of an incurable disease. He had progeria. Progeria it's a genetic disorder. The person ages very rapidly. So by the time he was 14, he was 100 years old. So he died, and the rabbi was very much shaken by it. So he writes this book based on his own introspection at the time, when bad things happen to good people. And the problem that he was trying to solve is, and he was taking experientially the example of his son. So his son was born with the disease. So he was always sick. He says, my son never did any sinful activities, yet he was punished. So he was a good person, bad thing happened to him. Why? And then he proposes 2 possible solutions. One, he says that God is limited in his ability to help people. The finite God solution. And the second that he proposes is the notion of evil being more powerful. And finally, he settles for the solution that bad things happen to good people because God is finite. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because this is a situation that you will face very often when you are preaching, when you're reaching out to other people, when they see that you are an aspiring transcendentalist. They will come and ask you that I've never done anything wrong, but yet bad things happen to me. I've never cheated anyone, but yet people cheat me. I work so hard, but yet I do not succeed. And invariably, they also come to the finite God solution, that if God is all good, why does he allow bad things to happen, especially to good people like me. Now, the answer to this is an understanding of the whole dynamics of karma. That we are enjoying and suffering the results of so many past lives. In those lives, we have done good and bad activities, and that we are now bearing the fruits of it. So yes, you may have lived a pious life in this birth, but you may have lived an impious life in previous birth. Then the person might say, what kind of activities will result in good and bad things? Now we say that those prescribed in the scriptures, Varnasrama, but we also know that there are so many cases where great personalities have been unable to understand the law of karma. Which is why Srila Prabhupada explains that there are only 12 personalities, 12 Mahajans, who really understand how the intricacies of karma work. Who are these 12 Mahajans? Lord Brahma, Shiva, Lord Kapila, who is Lord Vishnu. Then Narad, the Chatur Kumars, Swayambhavu Manu. Then King Janak, Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami, and Yamaraj. Now we don't have access to these 12 people. So what do? So Yudhishthir Maharaj, he gives us the solution to that. So he says that it is true that understanding the intricacies of karma is impossible. But if we follow in the footsteps of the self-realized persons, we will never go wrong. Mahajanayena Gatha Supanta. One of Srila Prabhupada's often quoted lines. That the Vedas are there, even if somebody has the intelligence to apply this cross-positioning of Varna and Ashram, even then it is difficult. That you're walking as a Grihastha, your duty is to give in charity. That is the prime duty of the Grihastha ashram. But you're walking down the street, person comes and begs you for money, you give the person charity, the person takes the money and buys liquor and drinks it, or buys meat and eats it, you get implicated in the karma. How do you handle that? Manduka Rishi, he was as a child, he was killing insects, and even Yamaraj made a mistake in ascribing blame to him, that you were killing insects and therefore you have to suffer. And Manduka Rishi said, but I was a child, so I can't be responsible, and that's why he cursed Yamaraj. He took birth as Vidur after that. And there's another example of a sage who was meditating, and he had taken the vow to speak the truth. And then he saw that there were thieves who were chasing people, and the thieves came to him and said that, did you see anybody go by? Now the sage knew that these are thieves and those are people that are being chased, but because he had taken the vow to speak truth, he said, yes, they went that way. And the thieves went by, caught them, stole from them, killed them. Now, is the sage, breaking a vow is a sin, speaking lies is a sin. But then in this situation, how is karma get interpreted? So very difficult to understand the nature of karma. So best thing is Mahajanayena Gatha Supanta. As one of the devotees said, that taking instructions from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. With this, we can know what and when is our appropriate duty. Okay, so what I want to do now in the remaining 15 minutes is to break you into 4 groups. And the feedback to that will be in the next session, but this gives you an opportunity to discuss. So the third chapter is divided into 4 parts. And I'm going to put that up on the screen. Okay. So the first is renunciation. And essentially, excuse me, Krishna talks about qualification over here, adhikar, very, very key concept in the life of practicing devotees. Because practice is where theory comes to life. And Krishna, right up front, takes this topic on. So this is the first, the 7 verses talking about renunciation. Then Krishna talks about karmakand. This is verses 10 to 16. I'll put this in the chat also so that you know. Then 4th section is nishkam karma, but little different. So in this section, the focus is on if there are nishkam, then why karma? Because they're contradictory. That you act because you have a desire. If you want to eat food, you will cook. If you're thirsty, then you will drink. But nishkam means no desire. Then why act? This is a part that is going to be developed. And finally, Krishna talks about the impediments. What are they and how to overcome them? So these are the questions that need to be presented. The topics that need to be presented at the end of the discussion by each of the group. The first group will talk about the role of adhikar. The second group will talk about after rejecting karmakand, why does Krishna glorify it? The third group will talk about if nishkam is no desires, then why would one act? And the fourth group will talk about that what are the impediments to performing one's activities and how to overcome them. Okay, so are we clear about what is needed? Any questions about that? Okay, very good. So let me go ahead and so I'm not going to be coming back just because this will take us to the end of the hour. So once you're done with that, as usual, make one person the designated note taker and speaker. And also keep a note of the devotees that you are working with. Because what I want to do is, so next week we'll have skits. So each of these 4 groups, I'm thinking, well, we'll make new groups at the time. So let's not worry about it. It becomes a little logistically complicated. So we make new groups at the time. But next week we'll have 4 skits. And I just want you to start thinking on those lines of creatively presenting. Srila Prabhupada loved dramas. And it's a creative way for us to present. Okay, so I see there are a few questions. Neha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Previously you mentioned about the story that one person who was killing the insect even though when he was little. So he was implicated for his karma. So, Prabhuji, I was wondering, like, we all do pest control, or like we hire someone to do pest control in the house. So, what do you like? What are your views on that? Like, practically, we have to control the pest in the house, and everybody do it. So, do we get karma for that, or what is the what is that?
We do get karma, Mataji, but again, this is one of those questions that difficult for me or anybody to ascertain the exact. So the point is made is that just living in a material body gives you karma. Every time you breathe, you kill so many creatures. Every time you cook, the fire kills so many living entities. Every time you walk, you step on so many living entities and kill them. So just before you even, pest control is something you're doing actively, but even if you're not doing it, you're still killing. Just existing is violence. So that's the nature of karma, that it begins to implicate you right from the beginning. And these are the questions that will, beginning from the 5th chapter, Krishna will start to address them. That all karma is bad karma, but Krishna says, I will show you some karma that will actually be good karma. But the statement that Krishna makes is all karma is bad karma. There's nothing like good karma. Okay. So I'm going to stop over here and break you into the rooms, just because I want to give you time to be able to discuss this.
This meeting is being recorded.
Is it over? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Prabhu said, yeah, Prabhu is there. Prabhu is online.
So we'll end over here.
Okay,
We'll
Prabhu.
Vanchakalpita Rupescha.
Namo Namaha.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Shiva Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Preema.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
The recording